So today we're going to start with Objective 7.3, Trigonomic Ratios. So trigonomic ratios are something that you learn about and use in geometry. It deals with right triangles. You can only use trig functions, and that's what we refer to these ratios as, is functions, when you have a right triangle. And so there's three that we work with in geometry. When you go on to trig class, then you will work with 6. But for now, we're just going to work with 3. And so these trig functions are ratios of the sides. So for the sine function, the ratio is the opposite side to the hypotenuse. Okay, so whoa, Miss Bearden. I know that the hypotenuse is the side across from the right angle. That's the side that's slanted. However, I don't know what you mean when you say opposite. So what I mean when we say opposite is I've got this little mark down here in the corner. That little mark is called theta. Theta is just a variable. Theta is the name of the angle when we don't know what that angle measurement is. So we call it theta. Now, when you're working with these trig functions, you will know what that theta is. You will be given a number. But right now, we're just going to call it theta, and that's something that you got to get used to. And while we're in the business of labeling the sides, the side that is between the right angle and the angle that we're trying to figure out, or the angle that we have, that side that runs between the two angles that we know the measurement of, that's the adjacent side. And then the next side, the one that is across from theta, or the angle that we're talking about, would be the opposite side. Okay? So now, the cosine function is the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So we set up a ratio for the sine function using the opposite side and the hypotenuse. For the cosine function, we've used the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So for the tangent function, guess what? We're going to use the opposite side and make a ratio using the adjacent side. All right, so there's our 3 functions. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. And here's how you'll see me do it shorthand. Sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent of theta equals opposite over adjacent. Some of the teachers you'll have will call it SOHCAHTOA, something like that. All right, so now we're just going to find some things using the calculator. So let's get Desmos ready here. So the first thing I want you to do when you open up Desmos is to go to this little tool wrench and click on it. Down here at the bottom, you've got two choices. You've got radians and degrees. You need to click on the degrees, and your calculator needs to be in degree mode in order for you to use these trig functions. Every time you open up that calculator, you need to check that when you're working with trig functions. So, cosine of 23. So I'm going to go, when I click here, you can either type COS, and then you would type in 23, right? Or if you hit the functions trig, you can just click on cosine 23. And either way, it'll give you the same number if you click the functions button or if you just type it in yourself. And so what we can see here is that the cosine of 23 degrees is just a decimal. And what do I need to round to? To the nearest tenth. So it's just a decimal. It's just a number. It's just a decimal. All right, and so the same thing, tangent 82. 7.11, so that would round to 7.1. The tangent of 82 degrees is just a decimal. It's just a number. And that's all I got to do. All right, label your triangle sides. So example 3, I'm given a triangle. The right angle is marked, and then I have an angle that's marked 23 degrees. So whenever I'm labeling this triangle, I'm looking at this angle, this 23 degrees. And I'm going to label the opposite, the adjacent, and the hypotenuse in the relation to the 23 degrees. So, first of all, the hypotenuse. Well, the hypotenuse is the slanted part. Oh, that's not what I want to use. It is across from that right angle. Hypotenuse is pretty easy to find. Okay, the adjacent. The adjacent is between the angle, so here's the angle, and here's the right angles. So that adjacent side is the side that's between the two angles that I know. So that means across from the 23 is the opposite. Okay. So my next one, here's my 18 degrees. Okay. So now hypotenuse is across from the right angle. It's the one that's slanted. It's either going to be going uphill or downhill. All right, adjacent. Adjacent is between the right angle and the angle that I'm given. So the side between the right angle and 18 degrees is here. That's the adjacent. And then the opposite is what I've got left over. And if you notice, it is across from the 18 degrees. All right, that's all we're doing today. And your assignment, you're going to be typing in things into your Desmos, your different trig functions with the angle, and then you've got some questions where you've got to label the triangle sides.